welcome to the Art of Listening podcast. In this episode, I speak to one of my favorite Kundalini Yoga teachers, Harmanjot. And obviously, we talk about Kundalini Yoga, her personal path, mastery, the importance of self-love, the radiant body, and as the year of the fire horse is approaching, we also talked about how do we stay balanced in that year. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did and enjoy. So welcome, Harmanjot. Thank you so much for coming on the Art of Listening podcast. And I'm very grateful to officially welcome you on this podcast. You're a very inspiring person to me. You're a Kundalini teacher, but overall, just the presence that you bring into this world, the path that you walk in life, and I'm very grateful to share your presence and your wisdom. So for anyone who doesn't know you, if you want to give yourself a small introduction, where you at, what are you doing?
Sure. Thanks, Marina. My name's Harmanjot. I'm so glad to be here. I am a Kundalini Yoga teacher. I've been teaching and studying. I call myself a Dharma scholar. I've been doing that for about 18 years. So coming 2 years to my 20th year anniversary. And I helped to found the Rama Institute, which we're cooking in Los Angeles and New York City and Palma de Mallorca. Now the institute is in Palma. And I was a part of the team building that and building the creative curriculum and the experiences and making that actually flourish in the world. And I was so lucky, so lucky to be with Guru Jagat, study under her, work under her, build underneath her. It was a really powerful time and my absolute privilege. And then more recently, I am the new founder and CEO of the Satnam Center for the Sacred Heart. And I'm looking forward into growing that into something that will also serve the world and all its inhabitants for peace, happiness, love, liberation, self-realization, the good stuff.
Yeah. And for anyone who's new to Kundalini Yoga, it's a very sacred and powerful practice, and I'm practicing it since almost 8 years myself, and I know how potent it is. So if you want to share about the Kundalini Yoga practice, and maybe for anyone who's completely new to get an inspiration for this practice.
So Kundalini Yoga is really an incredible practice, as you've said. It's an interesting story about where these practices come from. Kundalini refers to this reservoir of energy that lives at the base of your spine. Now, if you are in a medical room and you're looking at a body, you're not going to see it there. It's etheric, but it's an etheric reservoir that lives at the base of the spine, and it carries your life force energy. And the Kundalini rises through the spine throughout your life. While it's rising, it propels tissue development, tissue healing, brain development, cognitive development, creative development. It opens up your chakras. It adds energy to all of your energy bodies. But it normally happens spontaneously during, great periods of growth in your life. So when you're a child, there's tons of Kundalini rising. That's why kids are so radiant and magnetic and full of life. And they're have so many creative ideas and they're so cool. And during adolescence, when there's a lot of body changes, a lot of cognitive changes, a lot of emotional changes. And then it kind of peters out around 22, 25. And then you really have to do some work to raise your own Kundalini. There have been spontaneous awakenings. A lot of times they'll happen by some kind of falling on the tailbone, again, because that's where the reservoir is. So you'll hear stories of people skiing and falling, and then all of a sudden having a Kundalini rising, or falling off a horse. One of my favorite examples is the story of Paul the Apostle. I think it's a favorite of mine just because I think so many people might know this story and they can connect the dots with it. But Paul is this guy, he's a tax collector. He's not spiritual. He's just collecting taxes for the man. And he falls off his horse, and all of a sudden he sees Jesus, the Christ, and he becomes an apostle. And I think he's like the founder of the Catholic Church. Really, what happened, in my opinion, is he fell off his horse. He landed on his butt. His Kundalini went rising, and he saw the master of his region, the nearest spiritual leader, and he became a spiritual person. So that's all to say, it rises spontaneously throughout your life. In adulthood, it can have spontaneous occurrences, but for the most part, you have to do some work to get it to rise. And you want it to rise because it heals your body, it heals your tissues, it heals your nervous system, it clarifies your mind, it makes you creative, you have new ideas, you don't feel like you're aging and crunchy and, getting closer to the grave, which is kind of what used to happen to adults in the past. They just get old. You just hit like 25, you get a job, and all of a sudden you start getting old. It's so weird. And then you wonder, were these guys ever kids? Like, did they even have a childhood? So you got to do some work. And in India, there's a whole plethora of teachings that are used to raise the Kundalini, and in small doses, small amounts. You don't need a huge, Kundalini surge. Just need to release a little bit of the reservoir energy, a little bit every day. And that starts to keep you healthy, strong, vital, aware, clear, and maybe like a little bit more empowered in your life. The body of teachings that I teach and that you also practice, they're a collection from the entire Himalayan region. And they include like Vedic teachings, Kashmir Shivai's teachings, they include Tibetan Buddhist teachings, they include Shinto teachings, they include Sikh teachings. They're just, people often question, like, where do they come from? Why is it so many? Yoga means to merge with the infinite. So these are all practices that you could use. They're non-denominational, non-religious. Any religion can practice it, and you can use it to merge with the infinite, raise your Kundalini. You can just, there's so much to it. I hope I'm answering this question right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then there was a man who brought them to the West. His name was Yogi Bhajan. He's a controversial character right now. One of the reasons why I just continue to teach and practice beyond him is because in many ways, he's entirely irrelevant to the whole picture. He carried the teachings forward. They're available to people now. And then you practice them. This is there's so many things. I'm such a geek. There's so many things I love about it, but they're decentralized teachings. Anybody can have access to them. They're all over YouTube. They're disclosed. You don't need a gatekeeper to the divine, and you never did. It's really nice to have a teacher. I certainly enjoyed having a teacher. It's really nice to have somebody to ask questions like, hey, I'm confused about this, or what does this mean in the teachings, or can you help me with something? It's good to have a teacher, but no one is anybody's gatekeeper to the universe, and they never have been. And so I kind of don't pay any attention to the Yogi Bhajan controversy because he has nothing to do with me, my self-realization, my self-liberation. He gave me some teachings, and now I get to practice them. And this is all about me and my journey and whoever else I get to help and inspire along the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've experienced, or I still experience the power of Kundalini Yoga. And one part that I find is that it's so accessible to everyone to really just practice, but also have an experience. And that doesn't mean that you need to practice for a whole day, that it can basically be a short amount of time that you dedicate, maybe even just once, but every single day, and you can feel the shift. And you could also see it in someone's aura, and if you meet them, if they do a lot of practices.
It's true. You do see it in the aura. People get a lot brighter. You can always see like they get a lot shinier. You can also, when you meet somebody, you feel like, oh, we know each other because you have this shared frequency. 90 seconds, there are plenty of practices that are 90 seconds long, 30 seconds long, and there's an immediate shift. Something that I think that is really incredible, amazing, and also sometimes hard for people to understand is that for a long time, these practices were called secret practices, meaning they were held by these siddhas, these babas in the Himalayas, and these guys were hidden yogis. They didn't have a personal brand. They weren't going out trying to get known. They're not on Instagram. They're sitting in caves, and they're still doing it. They're sitting in caves in the Himalayas practicing, and they don't necessarily share these teachings openly. Yogi Bhajan had to go and like sit in baby pose for 3 days outside of this one Baba's cave just to get one practice, just to get one teaching. So they're powerful, and you were very lucky to have them. And the reason why that was it. The reason why they were secret is because they're so powerful. So I did have a conversation once with this woman on the beach, and she had been practicing for a little bit. And then she said, I couldn't do it anymore. It was almost too powerful for me. And I think what's interesting about that is that this is also like they call it self-initiated. You decide how much you want to practice. If it's 90 seconds, the practices are certainly powerful enough that 90 seconds will do it. If you want to practice more, that's great. That's your decision. There's no prescription around what you should do. I mean, there are some structures if some would like that, but there's a way for you to self-navigate if you're very independent, which I am.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I also experienced that in my circle of people that practice it, that actually said it's too much for me to practice Kundalini yoga. So
Yeah.
if that would be a person, right, who has this certain experience, what would you recommend? To still do the practices or maybe leave them and eventually they come back into their life?
I really do. I really share like self-regulation and sovereignty, which is that if there was a really sweet woman who was coming to my classes every day and then stopped coming. And I thought, like, should I like, so in the past, some of the communities I'd been a part of, they were really like sober coach influence, which is like, if you miss an AA meeting, this is so LA, LA is so AA, but if you miss a meeting, they call you and they're like, where are you? What's going on? What's happening? Because they don't want you to relapse. But for me in that moment, I thought, she's an adult and she knows what she needs to do. She can navigate this on her own. And it's very adaptogenic. Everybody's in a different space in their life and in their incarnation. And you don't know the right pace for somebody to unfold, evolve. You can never say that someone's not evolving because they're not practicing. You can't say that. And you don't know what's going to help them in their life journey. Maybe they need to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah,
That's also fine. That is also fine.
yeah. Yeah, and also that not everyone has to practice, for example, just Kundalini yoga, or if it would be just Ashtanga, or because I find also sometimes in the
Yes.
different, because also that's where people can get confused, as there are so many different yoga styles that you could practice, but actually coming back to yourself and really feeling what feels truthful for me and where do I feel the most amount of shifts and where do I resonate with the practice?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really great point. Like coming home to yourself. So there are so many different schools of yoga. I started Kundalini when I was 22, and I really felt like I had a job here. So I was like, all right, I'm going all in. This is it for me. And if you're gonna, it's the same thing with like becoming a doctor or a lawyer or, a really great chef. If you're going to do something, you kind of have to specialize and dedicate yourself a little bit. That's how you develop some expertise. So I really just dedicated myself to Kundalini Yoga, but I really believe in studying as many forms of yoga practice, spiritual practice, wellness practice as possible, because just knowing one, it's kind of like knowing one language, which in Europe, everyone knows more than one language. But in the US, it's like, you only know English? Like, what kind of barbarian are you?
Uh-huh.
You only know one spiritual system. Come on, like, there's so much. A symphony, an orchestra has so many instruments in it. That doesn't mean that listening to a violin solo or a cello solo is bad. And certainly a violinist is, for the most part, just a violinist. They're just great at the violin, and that's really great. But when we're exploring our lives, it's okay to allow the whole orchestra to come in and play, and for you to hear all the different sounds and sights and tastes available in the world, in the spiritual world, but in the world at large. The world is so amazing. I can't imagine being removed from, being like, there's only one way. How could there be only one way?
Yeah.
There's a way through marzipan. There's a way through everything.
Yeah, and staying open and not
Yeah.
just focus on one thing, and in the midst of it all, finding your own truth. Because I feel the more you know, or that maybe not the more you know, because otherwise it just really stays in the mind. This is what I know,
Yeah.
but really having the different lived experiences and then see what you really resonate with that. And then coming back again to the self trust eventually,
Yeah.
that I can be my own guide and I can trust my path. But also what you said, right? Committing to something and really going into, because I know you're into that, into mastery.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
there's so many different practices outside, and I feel a lot of people are just touching the surface on so many different things because there's an overwhelm of it. And yeah, exploring mastery.
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelm, but I also think, I don't know if I told you this once before. I tell this story a lot, but we're kind of at a funny state of evolution on the planet. A lot of people are gaining awareness of their capacity, their creative capacity. This is very, very important. Especially if we look at it from sort of a religious history perspective, which is also spiritual history. For thousands and thousands of years, there was one person who was like the coordinate to God. And then everybody else just had to listen to that one person. And it was really used as a tool to keep people away from their inner power and their inner creativity, their capacity to create the world that we live in. We know that this world is holographic, it's like a hologram, and it's like a matrix. And it renders as you program it, actually renders a lot from sound, but also from visions, from visuals. And this is why I actually think it's very important to look at beautiful imagery, spiritual imagery, beautiful images of the earth. If eco consciousness is really important to people, the more we look at negative imagery, the more our subconscious mind repopulates that into the time and space that's coming forward. Now, I don't say that in a spiritual bypassing way, because there are a lot of horrendous things happening on earth, and I think there's a balance there in which we don't want to turn a blind eye to the suffering of others. It's very important to witness the suffering of others, to open the heart to compassion, to say no and to stop it, saying we're not doing this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want other people to get hurt. And at the same time, you can't intake more than you can metabolize. Because if you intake more than you can metabolize, then you start regurgitating it to other people in your conversations, in your mind, in the visuals, in the ways that you populate the world in front of you. And then you recreate the trauma cycle, which it does not, we want to stop the trauma cycle. We don't want to recreate it. So we live in a hologram. It's a matrix. It populates based on your visual projection and also your sound, your words, the words that you speak, and also your energy field. I lost it, Marina. Where are we going with this?
Well, I mean, you said so many good
So much
things,
at
so
the
I
same
think we're
time.
definitely going in the way where we meant to go. But what you are saying, it's a good point, and I like that you bring that up with not spiritual bypassing, but also not just focusing on the negative, which oftentimes we are fed by that. And the
Yes.
more, yeah, so I think, and that's at least the feeling that I have, my responsibility that I could do is to bring a good presence into the world. And that just starts with me meeting myself and really trying to clean my shit from my side. Obviously, no one
Yeah.
is perfect. It's not about the perfection, but just noticing. And this is why these practices of Kundalini Yoga, but also other practice have really helped me, because they're such a tool to align myself, not just for myself, but then the presence that I bring into the world.
This was it. We were talking about mastery, and I
Yeah.
was talking about the, okay, there we go. I found it. So we're at a very funny state in our evolution of the world because we're finally waking up to that we can create. And then we're practicing it. And we're at a very, very like infantile state. And I don't say that to make anybody feel bad, but actually to just sort of recognize, have a little humility, first of all. Like, we're not, no one's quite a master yet. I mean, there are a few true masters on the planet, but it takes a lot to get to mastery. So it takes time, potentially multiple lifetimes, which is why we want to try and do a little bit of work now, So, when you have a life, the theory of reincarnation is you get multiple lifetimes, but it takes a while. That's why most people don't have very strong past life memory, because it takes time. It takes time to get another life. They talk about living in a human body almost like going to an amusement park, and you stand online for so long to get into this amusement park called Earth and life in a human body. And then you take your ride, and then it's over. And then you get back on that line. And we don't know how fast that line is going to move. So we want to try and do this is, I mean, this is part of my spiritual work ethic is I don't know when I get to come back. And I have enough past life memory. I have enough karmic memory that I'm like, ooh, this is precious. Let's do as much work as possible. Let's have as much fun as possible. Let's really like have as much fulfillment and deliciousness as a woman as possible, because it's not that you only get one, but you only get one in a very, very long time. One of the things I think I've figured out, I've never read this anywhere, but it sort of like came to me, is I think that they fast track you back onto Earth if you come as part of the service team. So if you come to serve other people, right, they always fast track the Dalai Lama and the other Rinpoches and the reincarnated Tulkus. They're part of the service team. If you're part of the service team, you get fast tracked. Now, those guys come right away. I'm not that high up, so I don't know how fast I get to come back, but I like being here. So I want to come back. So I'm always trying to figure out ways I can do that a little bit faster. I want to get back to mastery, where we are on the planet, and in this space of evolution, which is most people are literally just discovering that they can co-create with the universe. They're like, we're like little babies. We just discovered it. But it's very important to practice it because we have the capacity to render the next space of the world, to render the next space of the holograph, because we see so much war and greed and destruction and exploitation and usury of others and hurting of others. Because we see all of that, it's very important to get skilled in co-creating with the universe so you can create a different realm for people to inhabit. You can do it by your own focus and your own power. And then eventually we do it by collective power. There's enough people. And this is why, again, there's so much distraction. There's so much distraction from our power. There's so much there. In the past, there was so much religious distraction where it was like, no, you're not powerful. Why would you ever get that idea? Because as soon as enough people realize they can create a different world, then this weird exploitive game where we extract resources without regenerating the planet, and we extract from one another instead of just working intelligently and respectfully in community, that whole game is over. It's over. So this mastery point, I work towards it. I think it's important, but it's also like, when you're working, if you're working with a baby or you're working with a toddler, how much do you emphasize mastery? Not to say that we're all toddlers, like you don't. You emphasize like, let's have a little fun with this. Let's play with this. Let's explore this. Let's develop some skills. I want, my children to, well, my children are they're a little bit older now, but I want them to write their letters properly. I want them to develop good handwriting. I want them to develop good, academic skills. So we want to develop some mastery, but also it's time for play, time for discovery, time for, if you fail, not to be so hard on yourself, because every baby falls when they're learning to walk. So as we go into our co-creative mastery, like, let's have a little bit of patience with ourselves, a little affection, a little love, a little like, you know what, it's cool, you didn't get that one right, it's no big deal. Have as much fun now, do as much as we can now, and then just like enjoy it.
Yes, and I find that is something that you bring, right? Doing the practices, but also the joy of it, and not forgetting, because sometimes I even observe that in myself. I sometimes can get so serious, and just really being so serious about life, but also about the practices, and then forgetting about the playfulness. And when if it's too serious, I also feel you're kind of in a body contraction. You can't really allow anything that's meant for you to really come, because you're not open or not relaxed in that state also of receiving, which, right, is the natural state also of the co-creation of the universe. When it's too much and like, this is what I want to create, and like and we almost tense and hard and get so serious about everything that we do. And then it also drains life force.
Yes, it does. It absolutely. I mean, I feel like this is something that actually I think you're good at, which is being relaxed inside of the feminine. And I know you have male listeners and also people who are maybe exploring their gender identity. Everybody has polarities of male and female. So no matter where someone identifies on or doesn't identify on the spectrum, just kind of wants to resist identification, it's important to still understand the flow of the female energetics and the structure of the male energetics, because it's part of creation on Earth. You need structure and you need flow. And flow without structure is just straight up chaos, which is also fine. Like, if you need chaos to scramble you up a little bit and change things, this is also fine. But you never pour water into a non-glass, right? Like, if you want to drink from a cup of water, that cup has to have structure. So we understand that there has to be these masculine and feminine flows. Again, how one wants to wield them is individual. It's individual to them. But one thing that is really sweet about the feminine flow is that it keeps you in the receptive. And the thing about sometimes the spiritual structures, it's like too masculine, too rigid. We need both. We need absolutely both.
Yeah, and if, for example, someone is very new to their journey and it's kind of being at a point in their life where they feel, okay, there needs to happen some change. And I observe that in my surrounding, and right, more people are slowly waking up, but they kind of don't know, okay, what am I sensing? What am I feeling? And kind of also are slowly stepping away from that way we've learned how the world works, what would you recommend could be some very small baby steps to keep it sustainable, and what could help people on their path?
Yeah, someone I met recently, like, went to a sound healer and had sort of all their chakras awakened and was looking for something to do for that, how to have that experience again. So I think one is just sort of recognizing that you have an aura and starting to tune into your aura. You know, just try it. It's kind of amazing. I'm going to take us on another long-winded segue, but I know that's all as important. So the practices of Kundalini, so you're very, not just you, Marina, you, the audience, you're very talented. You're very smart. You're very, 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 very powerful. And there's so much to you that you know and that you don't know. It's like sometimes I think people have an instinct that there's more to them, and then they don't even realize how much more there is beyond that. The yogis say you're the entire universe. You audience, are an entire living universe. So with that, when I started practicing Kundalini Yoga, a lot of talents turned on for me that I didn't even know that I had. So one of them was seeing auras. This is not something that I practice. It's not even something that I was looking for. It's just something that it really happened pretty quickly too. It was kind of like after a year of practice, I realized I could see auras. And I am not saying that like to brag or like to sound like really super spiritual. It's just true that that happened. And it will happen for you, the audience. Something will happen for you. But what I also noticed is that I gained the capacity to learn just by trying. So again, another little tangent, but flow with me here. There's certain channeled texts talk about all of creation having codes, 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 like DNA codes, but also mathematical codes. You have codes. This blade of grass has codes. The flowers have special codes. That's the power and the mechanics of flower essences. These flowers have codes. You can pick them up by sight, but you can also distill them in some grain alcohol or some glycerin. You take them, and those codes, they help your body remember. They help your body energy, your psyche remember. So I'd heard that, the lemon tree has codes, and I started to just see if I could. I thought, it was just for me. I just thought, what would it look like, or what would it feel like if I could read those codes? And I just tried it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying it. And what I found is that I could start to translate energy into language. So the same way in a flower essence, they say, like, if you take borage as a kind of flower, they say it's for ebullient heart forces. Your heart is always lifted. How do they know that? How do they know it's for ebullient heart forces? Well, somebody was sitting with the flower and they were able to translate that energy into understandable human language. So I found that I was able to start doing these things just by trying. People always say, did you read this in a book? How did you learn? I just tried it. I just tried it. And it's the same thing for you, audience, to tune into your aura. How do I tune into my aura? You just decide you're going to do it. You're just going to try tuning into your aura. And then you're going to breathe into your aura. And you're going to feel your aura. And you're going to recognize that you have an aura and it surrounds you. The human aura is 9 feet all around. So that's 3 meters all around maximum, unless you merge with the universal aura, and then you're infinite. But for the most part, the personal aura is a 9-foot maximum or 3-meter maximum aura. Minimum aura is 1 meter, 3.5 feet, 1 meter plus. When the aura drops below 1 meter, That is when you have chronic anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, fear, terror, panic. It's not to say that maybe something didn't happen. Like, it's not to say something didn't happen. Maybe there's situational depression. Maybe there was some like trauma that happened. But one of the reasons why that trauma keeps replaying is because the aura is depleted. It's small. So you have to do some work to get the aura back to 1 meter, because that's where you start to feel just normal and balanced. So you want to tune into your aura. You want to consciously expand it. You want to notice that you have one, breathe into it, and then feel safe in it. You can put colors in your aura. White is a nice color to put in the aura. I also like lavender. Some people like pink. I like pink. Right now I'm feeling like it's going silver, white, lavender, platinum, pink, green, gold is a nice one to put in the aura. You can just tune in to what you need. That's one place to start. That sounds really far out. That's what, if you are, so that was really for this one woman who already had an aura experience, already had a chakra experience, looking to increase that. If you're coming to the spiritual path because you have anxiety and depression, or you keep dating the wrong person, you keep dating these, like, you have really bad relationships, the relationships are abusive or destructive, maybe that's a gentler, softer word to use. They're, depleting, you keep getting hurt, you keep dating the wrong people, you or you have a chronic health issue. That's another way people find the spiritual path, is you have a chronic health issue and nothing seems to fix it, and the doctors like don't know what to do, but somehow like spiritual work seems to alleviate some of the symptoms. If you're coming from that perspective, I think maybe another way that I would start is simply with pure self-love. One of my favorite Kundalini meditations goes like this. I don't think you can totally see me, but you start with this is the right hand. The right hand's in Gyan Mudra. That rests on your knee. And then this is your left hand. You put it on your heart center. My heart, I love you. My eyes, I love you. My head, I love you. And then over your belly button, I love you. And then you put that hand, the left hand in Gyan Mudra, and put that on your knee. I love you. And you keep going. My heart, I love you. My eyes, I love you. My head, I love you. Over the belly button, I love you. On the knee, I love you. I love this one. And even more simple than that is just to touch yourself in the morning or at night or whenever you need to. Just give yourself a little touch. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I know this is hard. Maybe I've abandoned you in the past. I'm sorry. I want to stop doing that. I want to be your best friend. I want to be your greatest cheerleader. I want to be your greatest advocate. Let me try this again. Just basic self-affection.
It's also holding your inner child, right?
Yes, yes. Talk to your inner child like, hey, I see you. I'm sorry. I haven't listened to you. I'm sorry I stopped listening. I'm going to listen more. I'm going to try. I'm going to mess up again, but I'm going to keep trying. Please stay with me here. Those are some of that went from sort of the way, far out beginner to like the very beginning. It's just basic self-affection. You wake up in the morning, bless your body, bless your beautiful arms, bless your beautiful neck, bless your beautiful breasts, bless your beautiful belly, like bless your body, bless your endeavors, bless your attempts, bless, you're trying. God, it takes so much to try. You're trying, bless it. And then at night, bless the day, bless your attempts, bless what went wrong, bless your learning, like love yourself.
Yeah. And bringing in that gentleness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like again, and I really resist heavy critique against anything because
Yeah.
I don't think it puts you in the right vibration. For me, doesn't put me in the right vibration. But the school systems are not, we don't like, they're graded. I mean, they're graded. You're like graded around your learning. Learning involves failure. If you think you need to get an A, it's so different in Europe. But in the US, it's like even from early childhood, because my kids go to, they used to go to an alternative school. Now they go to a regular school and it's great. I'm so grateful. Really, sincerely, I'm grateful to the school. I love the parent community there. But I just see it and say, okay, well, I can't believe my kids are getting graded. They don't know
Mm.
how to, like, they're just learning. If you think you need to be perfect, then you never take risks to fail. Or when you do fail, you're really hard on yourself because there's consequences. That's not that's not
Yeah.
affected in the spiritual path. You got to be nice to yourself.
And how many years do we spend on reprogramming these subconscious beliefs that really, if it spirals down to it's what did someone said to you in school when you were super little, the feeling that you had. So it's so interesting. We come onto this world and then we kind of forget about our initial gifts. And then
Yeah.
eventually you maybe come back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember how much I loved singing. I just loved it so much. And I used to see all these colors. And I didn't, I wasn't trying to be a singer. That didn't really enter my head. I had different thoughts about how I might, participate in the world as an adult. But I just loved it. And in high school, my guidance counselor was like, well, you're not going to be a singer, so you don't need choir. And that killed it. That was the end. I was like, what? I love singing. Like that was literally the end. It wasn't the total end, but it was a huge thing. We don't recognize how sensitive these little beings are or how sensitive we've been.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wanted to speak about this year because in Kundalini Yoga it said it's a 10th year and other
Yeah.
numerology systems are once, but I really love what that the 10th year is the year of the radiant body. And it is,
Yeah.
I've heard somewhere that it's a really good year to hone on your gifts. So everything that we've talked about, right? Really that maybe people have for this year and also the years to come have an inspiration or an encouragement to remember their gifts or tap back in. So if you could talk more about the 10th year and how we can make use of it.
Yeah. So the 2026 is the 10th year. It relates to the 10th body in Kundalini Yoga, the radiant body. It's also the Chinese Tibetan year of the horse, the fire horse. And I have a really interesting relationship to this right now. So, first 2026 started out and I felt like it was so not the new year. It felt like everything was sort of black. I felt like I was in a black room and nothing had been truly formed. And I thought, huh, this is what it feels like to be at the tip of the spear, render as we go. This is what it feels like to like nothing's here yet because we're creating it. I'm creating what's next. Um, and the radiant body is like victory. It glorifies you in the world. It lets you be seen. It's the body of the winner. Like athletes, great athletes just have like super strong radiant body. It's the win. It's the total win. And I love that. I want that for everybody. So this is a year that there's going to be some wins this year, which is going to be great. You're going to feel it. It is also, that's a very yang aspect. What's been sort of revealing to me in this early part of 2026 is sort of the softer side of the radiant body, which is, I call it soft beam purity, which is you just shine bright and you let things come to you. You don't have to do anything. You get to just sit in your magnetic radiance and let things arrive. So that's a little bit of a softer side of this space where it's not just, sometimes I feel radiant bodies so yang, and I like yang, so that's not a problem. But something that's been shown to me is easy on the yang, go a little bit softer here. I think one of the reasons why that's been my instinct, or what's been revealed to me in a way, is because this fire horse is going to be fun and also a little gnarly. um, I think a lot of people are excited about the fire horse. There's a lot to be excited about. It moves quickly. Horses move quickly. The Tibetan symbol of the wind horse is an emblem that's very, very near and dear to me, because it represents the swift pace of wish fulfillment, and I love a swift, accelerated pace. So I like when things move fast. So this idea of the year of the horse, things are going to move. That's going to be great. Love it. I love fire. I have 2 fire signs in my chart, so I'm Aries Leo. I love a fire moment. But the same time, fire burns up a lot of karma. Horses move very fast. And if we don't have our sort of like soft beam side, our like easy side, our dignified side, our sober side, I think this year of the horse could actually like eat people up a little bit. Like it's gonna force a lot of evolution, and evolution doesn't always feel good. I think we know that, if you don't have tools to regulate your nervous system, you can feel like you're getting trampled on by a fire horse rather than riding this fire horse. So I've been really focused this early part of 2026. My work, my practice, my teaching has been really focused on soft magnetics, soft energy, like super, super gentle. That way, when this fire horse year approaches, which will be February 17th and 18th, sort of that window, this coming year, 2026, that we sort of like ride that horse as opposed to letting that horse ride us and take us for a fiery stampede.
Yeah. Yeah, and not burning out, because if you throw
Yeah.
more fire on fire, we all know what's happening, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's definitely like everyone's excited about the fire horse. I am too, but I'm like, oh, there could be a little fiery stampede in there. Let's like I think we want to apply some like cooling energy to this year. And it's the same thing with the radiant body. With the radiant body is so bright and so sharp, but we want to go, there is actually a cool side to it. And that cool side is like, it's just a soft beam magnetics. It's just a purity. It's just a containment inside of your majesty. Majesty, I think, is also another thing that people, we have this idea of the queen or the king and majesty. It's kind of like loud, but this is just American majesty. Europe has old world majesty, and old majesty is actually dignified, contained, noble, calm, studied, sober. It's metered. There's a calmness to it. So the radiant body, which is the majesty body, needs to also have that installed into this year so that we can walk the year with profound victory, with real victory, as opposed to like kind of Instagram victory, which I hope more and more people are seeing through the whole
Yeah.
facade of thing where everybody's like a mess out there.
Yeah, and I think this is also the difference that you can sense if it's like really flashy on the outside, but just for because there's also a lack on the inside, and it's just more
Yeah.
about getting the validation from the outside rather than resting in your own being and really just knowing that actually the presence that you bring is the biggest gift that you could actually offer. And but also kind of seeing, okay, where am I standing myself? And that this is exactly what you said. It's nothing then what you have to do, but it's more
Yeah.
like how you carry yourself in the world.
Yes. Yes. The presence over performance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that, yeah, there's a lot of like the radiant body sounds really flashy, and in many ways it is, which is great. Again, as a Leo moon, I have no problem with a flashy moment. I love a flashy moment, but it isn't, we have to be, I think there has to be, I'm looking at this with a little bit of sobriety, because I'm seeing that with too much of this, it actually doesn't deliver what we're really looking for, which is a true victory, which is an establishment inside of one's own self. That takes a little bit of like meditative mind, apply the meditative mind to this very, very hot and amazing, super cool year. But let's go in with a little bit of meditative mind as well.
Yeah. And the meditative mind reminded me on something that I've been experienced the past weeks. It was just more, I mean, once in a while I really have it, but whenever like coming on the mat and then experience a practice of yoga, and I find there's so much that you could see also nowadays on Instagram, what is yoga, what's not, and it's kind of also used for every commercial. But I find it's such a different experience when you come onto your mat and then you also with a different teacher, but you experience the sacredness of this practice. And maybe that's a good question for you, how to actually keep the sacredness of the practice as well. Because I find, I mean, it's great. I know, like, also for my first access point to yoga was just the physical practice, but
Mm.
I knew it did and it shifted a lot in me. So, yeah, how to keep the sacredness and really not forget about that, because I find it such an important point to not forget about the sacredness of the practice itself. Yes, it's great to move the body. Yes, it's great to feel good. We all want that. But that's essentially not why the practice is there, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. So this has really been coming up for me around sacred is the word that's been coming up for me. And everybody just starts in their own place. You know, when I was starting Vinyasa yoga, it it was the only it really just made me feel better. You and I are both tall, but I think you're like a little bit more ease, have a little bit more ease carrying it. For me, it was so hard. I had such like I just did not like standing out from the crowd. It was hard for me to be like I always felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb, but it wasn't just the height. It was probably also like the artistry, the spiritual intelligence. I just felt like I was such an outsider. So and then the height didn't help. And I felt like, oh God, do I always have to stand out? What is wrong? And the vinyasa yoga helped put me in my body in a way where I had just no more body image issues. I was like, okay, this is me. I am this height. I am this tall. Like this is who I am. So, and there's always like, it's good to be fit. It's good to take care of your body. I love to work out. I don't go to the gym. I do the Kundalini cardio kriyas because I like the energy they give me. When I was first starting out, I would do like 90 minutes of vinyasa power core yoga in the morning. And then I would do 90 minutes of Kundalini yoga at night. And then I realized I actually don't have that much time for yoga. Like I don't have other things to do in the day. I can't spend all this time doing yoga. So I decided I had to choose, and I chose Kundalini because it gave me so much more energy and freshness and etheric energy. They say that the human vehicle, they call the human body like a vehicle. It's 1/10 physical, 3/10 mental. That's why mind over matter is so important because you're more mental than you are physical. And then 6/10 spiritual. So 60% of you is actually etheric. Only 1/10 is physical. So when we feel the physical so distinctly, like if something hurts, we feel it. We feel it. If something goes wrong, if you get sick, if you have like, chronic illness or something really like an acute disease that puts you in the hospital, like a cancer or something like that, like we feel it. We feel it when the physical body goes off, but it's only 1/10 of your whole being. So I do like to work out. I do like to exercise. I do think taking care of your physical body is really important. It's a temple. So I never, judge anybody who's like just there for the workout. Totally get it. Keeping the sacredness, I think, has come up I think that's just where I am in what I want to experience right now. To me, sacred means a recognition of the preciousness of life. So recognizing how amazing life is, my own life, life in other people, life in plants and animals. And therefore, when you recognize how precious it is, respect for it, care for it, tenderness, appreciation, that to me is a definition of sacredness. And that has just been kind of what's been required of me. And what I'm exploring. I'm doing a relationships course with my husband in February, and it's been really interesting. We've been together for 15 years. For 15 years, we've been married for 12. I feel like with time, it's been so required for me to just really, really see him as a sacred individual. Like I have to, because at some point, chemistry goes away. I mean, it doesn't ever really go away, but it stops being enough of a glue. Like in the beginning, if it's just like, he's hot, you're hot. I don't know what people say these days, but like, if it's just like chemistry, that's great. And that can be enough. But at a certain point, like 2 years in, 3 years in, stops being enough. And you realize, I also have chemistry with that guy over there. Like, why should I deal with this chemistry when I could have chemistry with somebody else? Maybe they're better. Maybe they have something more to offer me. Maybe all the problems that I'm facing in this relationship will be different with somebody else. And sometimes that is true. So I'm not, people have to change relationship status. Sometimes marriages are supposed to break apart. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But what I've noticed is that for me, in order to stay in relationship and to enjoy it, not just to stay and put up with it, to have stamina inside of it, because who needs that? Gone are the days where it's like, you're married for 50 years because you just white knuckle grip it. Come on, that's not a life. I don't want to do that life. So I'm looking for, how do I enjoy this space? And I enjoy it when I look at him as a sacred being and as an emanation from the universe. And when I really do that, the whole thing changes. It's so wild. It's a process that I'm currently in, so it's almost indescribable for me, but that's why we're teaching the course together, because I found that there's so much beauty inside the other person. When you recognize that, you stop the violence, you stop the aggression against our earth, aggression against the animals, aggression against the people, aggression against yourself, and aggression against the person you're in relationship with. Sacredness.
Yeah. And the appreciation.
Yeah. And the practice, I mean, like the physical, all of these practices are there. I guess one way to appreciate the practices is just by recognizing how lucky you are.
Yeah.
Because they say it takes a very special birth to even get to practice yoga. They say this they say this in the yogi trainings too, but a lot in the Buddhist trainings, they say, um, you know, you're lucky if you get a whiff of the Buddha Dharma. You don't know how lucky that is. Some people never even get close to it. So you got so lucky if you can practice yoga, you're a lucky person just to practice.
And this is the sense also what I get, right? Is that if you have this more of the sacredness, because it's also hard to describe it, but I find always these moments where there is so much appreciation and gratitude that I'm able to practice that. But even being in a room, coming together, and even us having this conversation about it, so more people can maybe tap into it, can get an experience of it. So that is accessible to people.
Yeah. And then you start valuing things. Again, I feel it's so different in Europe than the United States, but the United States has like a real greed issue. And I'm not anti-abundance, I'm pro-abundance. I love abundance, but abundance is different than greed. And what I find, why I say greed is because it's never enough. You never value what's really in front of you. You never value what you have right now. And if you start to recognize how lucky you are just to practice, just to breathe, just to take one breath is lucky. Takes first, again, the yogic math is it takes 8.4 million lifetimes to get your first human body. That took you so long. And you get to breathe in a human body. That's lucky. That's lucky. They say that angels, these angel cards that everybody's obsessed with, they say angels are jealous of the humans. Angels want a body. And that's why we have all these movies, about angels that become people and then they fall in love. Angels want a body because it's amazing. And you have one. You're lucky. You're lucky just to be alive. And when you really go into that space, when you really recognize it, then you're grateful. Then you're not as hungry for more stuff and more this, more that, more attention, all the ways in which we perpetuate the cycle of like consumption and disposability. You can't get away from being a consumer. We consume air, we consume prana, we consume sunlight. I love fashion. You consume clothing, you consume media, you consume sounds. I love consumption. I love this world. I love this life. I do. I love it. I love food. I love music. I love people. I love dancing. I love it all. I would be so amazing. So we'll never get away from consumption, but there's a regenerative way that I know that we are all a part of. There is a regenerative way that's been being blocked. And part of perpetuating the block is not valuing what you have, because you always think you need something more. And then you push yourself to generate some more money, more income, more this. For what? For what? To buy a bigger yacht? I mean, I love your yacht. Don't get me wrong. I love yachts. Like, I love it all. But for what? When what you have in front of you is literally the universe in its microcosmic emanation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reminder for this year, right? Appreciate
Yeah.
even because there are so many New Year's intention that probably people have or maybe forgot about already. That it's not about from which places it actually coming, appreciating what you have, but you could still desire more. But
Yes,
it's
more
not
is
about, right,
more.
that you have to live super simple and deny all of your desires, but having that appreciation.
We're into more. And sometimes it's really good. Like if somebody's starting their own business, you have to have income goals. You have to have revenue goals. You have to say like, okay, I'm going to expand to this and we need this and we're doing this. That's all part of growing yourself as a human, right? It's all part of it. But in terms of what's it all for, like, does it all what brings fulfillment? What brings real fulfillment is gratitude. I hate it because I never did those gratitude. Everybody's like, I start with a gratitude journal. I never did it. I hated them. I hated it. And now I'm just like, but if you're not grateful, you'll never be great or full.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's always inspiring to talk to you, and I could talk for hours with you. But I would love how people could work for you, with you if they want to connect. I know you're based in LA, so if anyone is in LA, they could definitely also join soon the physical space, but online you do so much.
Yeah, so there's an intro to Kundalini Yoga. I call it Kundalini 101, and that's on my website. I feel like that's a really great place for people to start, especially total beginners, because I go through all of it. It's really short. It's like 11 videos. They're 3 to 8 minutes long. One's 20 minutes. That's a yoga set, and the other one's 40 minutes. That's a yoga set with a meditation. But I go through all of it, the background, the history, the mantras, the breath, why we do it. The turban, PS, totally not required. Just like if you want to wear it, you wear it. You definitely do not need to dress in any sort of fancy costume. You come as you are. But I feel like that's a really great place for people to start because it gives them both a taste of the practices and also a foundation where then whether you take more classes with me online or like do some of my courses or you take a class somewhere else in the world, you're sort of empowered to have a deeper, more personal experience.
Great. Well, are there any last words that you want people to know if there's anything that's still on your heart?
You are allowed to be you as you are. You came to this planet. You were wanted. You were wanted on this planet. People wanted you, even if you don't feel like your parents wanted you. They did. And also the world wanted you. You were asked to come. You were invited. You're received. You're wanted and received. You're noticed. Your gifts are requested. Your awakening is requested. Your self-realization is requested. I personally, this is my prayer for everybody. I want to see more of you. I want to see more of your gifts. I want to see more of your talents. I want to see more of your creations. I am bored with the status quo and I would like more entertainment. So I would like you to just develop yourself so that I can be more entertained. So you are requested. I think the world is requesting it, but I am also personally requesting your unfoldment, your greatness. I'd like to watch your greatness unfold. It's one of my favorite things to watch somebody else's greatness unfold. So you're welcome here on planet Earth. You were invited, you are received, you are seen, you are requested to unfold your gifts and to join the party and then go out and help somebody else because, you know, we should do this all together. Siblings, brothers and sisters on planet Earth, the siblinghood of the human race. Satnam.
Satnam.